Okay. Is the equation that we have been given already in fireproof form? The answer to the question is yes, it is. You should be able to tell me what A, B, H, and K are right now. Now, if you notice from what we did on Friday, every single one of them that we did had an H value of 0. So, what do we got for A, B, H, and K now? Good call with the negative pi over 2. Your phase shift is negative pi over 2. Remember that fireproof form, y minus k over b equals the cosine of x minus h over a. By the way, what is underneath the x plus pi over 2? Oh, that's a 1, right? Our a value is a 1. What do we got for b? Also 1, right? And how about that k value? 0. Identify your center line of your wave. What is the center line of the wave? What horizontal line should I dash to pieces? What horizontal line should I dash to pieces? Center line. Come on, center line goes with your vertical shift. Yes. We still got the old x-axis. Find me HK. Where is HK? Where is that coordinate HK? Negative pi over 2, yeah, and right over here. Is that location on the wave or under the max? It's under the max. We're dealing with cosine here, folks, which means we need to know the amplitude. Do we know the amplitude? What is the amplitude? Okay, I hear a couple people that are mumbling the correct answer. What do we got? 1. Oh, yeah, right. Because it's the absolute value of the multiplier, which we haven't changed it, so it's got to be the same as the original cosine amplitude. What about the period? 2 pi. 2 pi. Yes. The famous Greek rapper that I don't believe is actually dead. I think he's still alive making records. In Greece, of course. He's a Greece rapper, so. Okay. Not a greasy rapper. That's a completely different thing. All right. So how far to the right of the red dot should... Oh, I guess we just said it was under the max. How far up should I go to find the first point? 1 unit, right? I'm going up. There's my first point on the wave. How far to the right should I go before I know it starts the wave over again? 2 pi. Now, I get kids that do this. Don't do what I'm about to do, but they do this. You can watch, okay? And then we will erase it because it's wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because I went too far, didn't I? If I'm only intending to go 2 pi units to the right, don't I have to stop right about there? See, that distance is 2 pi. But I get kids that think they should go all the way over to where it says 2 pi. They only think that because we did a bunch of problems where the h value was 0 and there was no left and right shift. Okay? What do I do in the middle? Is it on the center line? Is it above the center line? Is it below the center line? What? Below. Exactly the amplitude below. And then, of course, you have the other two, right? The other two locations. And you can draw your wave. What questions do we have? Okay, how about, you got your standard, min is -1, max is +1. What's your range? -1 to 1. We got the old boring -infinity to infinity for our domain. We already talked amplitude, we talked period, we talked, I keep spelling vertical wrong. What's the vertical shift? How much? 0. What's the phase shift? -π/2. Awesome. Asymptotes? None. Okay. Differences on this question? You're dealing with sine. It's already in fireproof form. You should be able to identify A, B, H, and K. Go. Let's see what you can do. How that's different on the sine wave. Good. Now think, is that on the wave or is it under the max? Because we're dealing with the sine wave. Good. On the waves or under the max? On the wave, that's true. It's a sine wave. No, you're actually correct. This is negative. Right? Half of this is positive. This is sine. Sine actually keeps that value. When we drew our sine waves, to HK was actually on the curve. So we would use the period to find a place where it ends. Then we go back in the middle, we go up, then we go down. All the way. Okay. I think it's over here. Okay. Did you get the correct A, B, H, and K? 1, 1, negative pi over 4, and 0. Got the correct center line. You found HK. Is HK on the sine wave or under the max? That's actually on the wave, right? I need to make up a story about how sine is a very nice, inclusive person. Always includes all the H's and the K's. Never mind. I'll figure that out someday. How far to the right should I be going? Well, I guess that means I need to know the period of the function. What's the 2 pi, right? There's been no stretch. No stretch at all. Or shrink. How about that amplitude? Still a 1, right? Because we haven't done a stretch or shrink on that. Okay, so how far to the right do I go? Where do I stop for the last point of that cycle? I'll give you a hint. It's not right there. It is. It's 7 pi over 4. It's right. It's 1 pi over 4 backwards from that. Just imagine the whole cycle shifting 1 pi over 4 to the left. So if you thought about the original one going from 0 to 2 pi, all we did was pick the whole thing up and slide it over. So if the other one went through pi, this one will go through right there at 3 pi over 4. Yeah, I know, it's not labeled. Got to use your imagination a little. So if that's point number 1, and that's point number 2, and that's point number 3, how do I find the fourth one between 1 and 3? Between 1 and 3, what do I do? Well, is the point right there? Is it down here? Is it up here? It's up. Yeah. Get rid of those other two imposters. Okay? And then between 2 and 3, where is point number 5? Below. Okay? So. All that stuff in there is pretty boring. We pretty much know it all in there. I'm not going to waste your time with that because everything is pretty much the same. You just shifted it to the left. Okay? Go to question 3. A, B, H, and K. Is it in fireproof form? Kind of. Not really. What's the one thing you would do to get it into fireproof form? You add 2. Put the vertical change over on the vertical side. So what do we have for A and B? Those are both 1s, right? What about H? Positive pi. And K? Close. Negative 2. Right, negative 2, positive pi. What's our amplitude? 1, right? Yep, no change. And period, 2 pi. Okay, graph it. Find your center line. Identify HK. Decide whether it's on the wave or under a max. we do. Any questions on that? I mean, now's a good time to ask me. Yes, sir.
I know, I don't. So, in terms of the unit circle, if I return from the place, I don't understand that. If I were to look at cosine,
Okay. Do you want to look at like a transformation on the original? Like if you wanted to just plug in values in this, you could plug in values for x and type on a calculator to find out what y would be. And there would be obvious choices. You would want to know what the period of the function is, so that you didn't pick random things, so that it wouldn't like be difficult. But so you probably want to start with pi. What's pi minus pi? 0. What's the cosine at 0? That's 1, right? Because if you're on the unit circle, it's out here, right? That's 1. And then if I took 1 minus 2, I get negative 1, right? So just by going through picking pi, plugging it in, you could even use the one at the top, it would give me negative 1. Okay? And then I could go to the next one. What I would probably do is I would probably take the period and cut it into fourths. Okay? So that I would know what the next one was. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Because really I want to take the cycle and split it into 4 pieces. However big the cycle is. In this case it's 2 pi. Okay? So if you want to do that trick, I would recommend that. So if the period gets shrunk down to pi, well now I'm going to go in increments of pi over 4, right? Because I'm going to split it up into 4 pieces, and then if I wanted to plug numbers in, I could. And that wouldn't be the strategy I would suggest, but you could. Any other questions? Anything not make sense about that? Okay, let's go to question 4. Any fireproof form suggestions? Divide by 2, awesome choice. What's A? It is still a 1, folks. What's B? 2. H? 3 pi over 4 is correct. K? 0. Graph it. Find your center line of your wave. Think about period. Think about amplitude. Find your HK. Determine whether HK is on the wave or under the max. the circle. Just do this. Here's 0. Here's pi, right? What's at the top? Pi over 2. Okay, because you're cutting it in half. We talked, at this point you should know this is 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4. That's another way to say that. 3 pi over 4. So it should be smack dab between pi over 2 and pi. Anybody stuck? Oh, here's center one here. Wait.
Can you explain what you just said on the third?
Okay. So you think about a circle. So here's 0, right? Alright, here's pi. It's halfway in the middle. Pi over 2, right? So if we go in increments of pi over 4, that's 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. Now, if you think about quadrant 2, 45-degree angle, 3 pi over 4. 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. That would be 4 pi over 4. So your HK is sitting right here. Here it is, still 2 pi, right? Because no changes happened on these. We got an amplitude. We got an amplitude change, right? Where's this 3 pi over 4? That would be a 6 pi. Just take that fraction and change those chords. 6 pi. I hope so. Because if you can't, that'd be really painful. Sure. My other standard answers are about becoming a urologist. I said no, I think we can math teacher, so I can answer your question. And then they just like, what is that? Yes. Nice. Okay with this? Alright. So that means since this is a sine, and if you're going actual first point of the sine, 2 pi units later, I'll highlight just where that is. Think about where 2 pi is. And then you put this point 3 pi before the right. You would take this point and from there. Okay, now if you're struggling with getting, like let's suppose you can find HK and you knew that it was on the wave. So you got your first point, okay? You got your center line, you got your HK, but you're struggling to find the end of the first wave, which is where I typically grab the second point. If you moved this point over 3 pi over 4 units, and I discussed that with several of you, 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4 to get to that spot, what did you think you would do with the end of the original sine wave? It also moves over 3 pi over 4. So you can use what you know about the original one if you're struggling with the idea of starting here and going over here 2 pi units. But that would be the second point of your wave. Your third one is smack dab in the middle on the center line, and then up and down the river. Be a weird looking river. I don't know, I'll find one. Okay, do we have that? Okay. Is this complicated enough, or should we do something else? Let's see if we got one that's more complicated. Something that's got, no, that's all that one does. All right, we'll do 5. Is it in fireproof form? Please say no. No, thank you very much. Okay, so obviously you can see that there's no change on the vertical. There's nothing outside the sine function that needs to be transitioned to the other side. So everything's going to be the same normal stuff for the y's. It's the x's we have to look at here. Okay, now those of you who say that h is negative pi, please stop. Okay, it is not. Now, 2x plus pi that's inside here is really the same thing as 2x plus pi over 1. Does everybody agree that you can divide anything by 1? Okay, now, fireproof form says we want 1x. What are you going to multiply 2x by to change it into a 1x? 1/2. And if you do it to the top, you better do it to the bottom. So when you distribute that, what do you end up with? X plus pi over 2. Don't say half pi. I know it's the same thing, but people on the street will make fun of you. Okay, and then 1/2 times 1 on the bottom. So the fireproof form of this equation is really sine of x plus pi over 2 divided by 1/2. Okay, what's my A, my B, my H, and my K? A is what? 1/2. Good call. How about that B? 1. H? Negative pi over 2. Yeah, be careful. Remember, it's x minus h. And K? 0. What's the period of this one? Ah, only 1 pi, right, because we cut the period in half. All right? And the amplitude? Still 1. Okay. Find the center line of the wave. Find your HK. No, because that, well, what that does is, it's, I don't know if you can see my screen, but we take 1/2 1/2 times the original period. You can see that, and then that makes the 1 pi. Okay. Now, it's absolute value, but I'm not going to try to trick you with a bunch of negative multipliers. You guys have enough problems the way it is. I'm throwing that in there. It would not be fun. Okay, I don't know who put HK in the middle of all this algebra, but, that's ridiculous. Okay, so yeah, I found my HK, but it was like right inside the parenthesis. Okay, how far to the right should I go before I start the cycle over again? 1 pi. So according to my scale, 1 pi would take me to here. It has to start and stop the cycle in that one in between. So there's the first point, the second point, the third point, the fourth point, and the fifth point, which many of you were getting. Good job. Got that? Okay. We can tell there's no change in the vertical because nothing's outside the cosine function. Okay, everything is inside with the horizontal. It's not in fireproof form. What are you going to multiply this by to the top and bottom to get it equal to 1x? 1/2 would be an excellent selection. And that would give me x plus what? Pi over 4 divided by 1/2. Okay, now that we've got it in fireproof form, you do the rest. Find your A, B, H, and K. Find your center line, find your HK, decide whether that's on the way or under the max. Done. You did the sine. Yep. So you got the right HK and the right center line. All right, now you did a sine wave also. Ah, yeah, we tricked you. Nice. Okay. Here, yes. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Not the best trace.
If it helps, draw the center line like I do, and then identify that HK point so you know how to do the rest. Unless you're just that good, which some people are. Okay, so hopefully you found this information, identified your HK, and then you went up to find your first point, because you're dealing with cosine, not sine. And then to the right, pi units, because that's your amplitude. Halfway in between, you're at the bottom of the wave. And halfway in between here and here, you're on the center line and on the center line. Yep, question. Question. Let's take a look. Were 5 and 6 basically the same graph? That's a fantastic question. Can you answer that? I gotta vote for yes.
See, this one crosses through the 0. Yeah, it looks like that's been moved over pi over 4. That's been moved over. Hey, it has the same period. I think it is. The difference between cosine and sine, the original ones, is pi over 2. But if you've done a horizontal shrink by a half, what's the difference? What's half of pi over 2? Pi over 4, the difference between those two functions is pi over 4. One got shifted pi over 2 to the left. One only got shifted pi over 4 to the left. That's a difference of pi over 4. So yeah, it is. I like that observation. Nice.
Okay. Let's jump to worksheet 4 and see if we can find a more complicated one. Well, we'll worry about tangent in a little bit. We need worksheet 4, number 3. Of course, whoa, man, I made a boo-boo there. I'll give it to you like this. Hopefully you would think through the process of adding 1 and dividing by 2. Is there anything that I need to do inside there to change the horizontal part to fireproof form, or is it good? It is good. It's good the way it is. Right? You should be able to identify A, B, H, and K. Any of that information? Do we have an A? Give me an A. 1. Give me a B. 2. What does that spell? AB, right? Okay. H. Pi over 2. K. Negative 1. What's the period of the function? 2 pi, right? Because the stretch has not occurred. Amplitude. 2. Graph it. Make sure you get your center line first and your HK next. Center line first, HK next. Need your center line and your HK. There they are.
I think the shape is correct, but didn't we slide the whole thing down? So isn't our dash center line down at -1? You have it at 0. So I'm guessing that we might be right about it. Now this would be fine. Okay. The center line's here, going right through here. That's okay. That's okay. But if you come back to the middle, you should be farther down and be 2 units below the center line.
What? Are we done already? Seriously! What's wrong with this period? Why does it go so fast? I guess it's because we're having fun. Okay, hopefully you found HK, the red dot. Pi over 2, negative 1. And then how far to the right should I be going before I find one place that it starts over again? 2 pi units to the right. That would land about right there. Halfway in the... Are we dealing with cosine or sine? Cosine? What am I doing? I should be using the amplitude. How far up should I go? 2 units. So there's the first point on my wave. Then I can do the period to find the second point. Right? Using that period. And in the middle. Coming back to the middle, now where do I go? To the bottom of the wave. That's right. 2 units below the center line. I think it's important that you graph the center line so that you're getting the same amount of distance above and below. Some of you do, or most of you do, some of you are not. So give yourself that center line of the wave so you can get that. Quick question, if I asked you to give me the equation of that particular wave. Let's say we just had the wave, that's all we had. Okay, and I asked you to write that equation. Alright, of that particular, and I said let's write it as a cosine function. If you look at this picture, if I asked you to find it as a cosine function, could you call this point HK? If I asked you to write this as a cosine function, so I give you the picture and I ask you for the actual equation, could the point that I circled in blue be called HK? Yes or no? Yes, it could be. So if I give you a picture like this and say write the equation of that line or of that wave, would a kid be wrong if they chose the HK on the left or the HK on the right, or would I have to accept both? I'd have to accept both. That's right. We know the domain of this thing is negative infinity to infinity. So technically, if a kid says, well, let's see here. It looks like the K value there is a negative 1. If I choose this to be my H, I've got 5 pi over 2. And so this kid might say y plus 1. Looks like my amplitude is 2. So I could put that over 2 equals cosine. What would you put inside these parentheses? If you chose HK right there. X minus, if that's what you meant, then I agree with you. X minus 5 pi over 2. And underneath that, what is the A value? When you look at this and you identify that the period is 2 pi, could you work your way backwards and say 2 pi times what? It's 1, isn't it? So could you use the graph to go backwards? That's an important thing to be able to do.